Welcome everyone. Hope you can hear me. Um, this is Jeff at Stitch Media. Welcome back to another creative stream on Friday afternoon. Um, you're joining me as we continue work on Terrorarium. If you've joined in the past, and if you're just joining us for the very first time, I'm continuing work on some concept work for the game that we're making here at the Stitch office. What I'll be working on today is some ideas for this one particular screen. It's our narrative screen. Basically, it appears before the actual gameplay starts and after you first come to the start screen. And so what's supposed to happen is it kind of introduces you to the cockpit of the gardener's spaceship, as where she gets some messages about. Great, we hear the sound. Great, good to know. So basically, it's the screens where you see some information about the competitions going on, and we see the name of Dolores, who is the arch rival to our Gardener character. So what you see on screen right now is the work of our 3D modeler Maddie. She was working from the designs of one of our other designers, Amanda. So this is what we have right now. As we were talking about it, I was going over reviewing the work with Maddie, and some things started to come to me that we didn't quite catch earlier on in the process. Basically, the handoff from Amanda to Maddie. Things like what maybe the theme of this ship should be and how we should actually design it to meet the story beats and points of the story, and then the character of the gardener and how that might translate to her spaceship. So I was reviewing the initial designs, one thing that I kind of started thinking about is how it shouldn't just be a spaceship. Something about it should also reflect the character of the gardener. And the gardener is some of this like grandmotherly old lady retiree. She has Wellington boots on. She has her work gloves on. She carries a big sack that she's collected of like various plant monsters and whatnot. So that is a very earthy type character while still being an alien, and I think that's one thing that we wanted to catch about in our ship 2, where it just shouldn't be strictly a sci-fi spaceship. One thing that I kind of was discussing later on with Maddie was that maybe we should alter it a bit so that it has that small country kitchen feel meets spaceship. So we're trying to think of ideas on how to make that pairing work. So Maddie took a crack at it, doing some sketches, and wanted to hear. You actually could see is actually putting in curtains like in front of the by the window screen. And then we added some plants to make it a little bit more like homey. So that are the small details that are in there right now. It's still not hitting it, in my opinion, of getting this nice blend that works quite well together. So right now, what I'm going to be doing is probably reworking some of the elements in here that Amanda had put in. The idea of like showing, I guess, on this section on the left, an area for text to appear. Definitely there's going to be text on the middle screen. But there's two things we want to change, and probably I'll be working on this hour, is first the geometry and then the modeling of the more spaceshipy type parts of this that you can see. So this right here is the left and the right cabinets, metal cabinets. They do, at least the one on the left has an important part to play in this narrative screen, is show some needed information. But the design itself is strictly to convey that we're in a spaceship. And then the other things I want to work on is actually showing things that, again, are a little more like a small country home that Dolores might inhabit. So things like maybe putting some, I forget what it's called when you look at homes, but some fancy wood paneling might happen. We don't see the roof here, like the top part of the spaceship. We're definitely looking at like putting wood beams on top, and then what would the desk itself be? You know, normally it's going to be this metallic, harsh, cold material, whereas we were kind of talking about, well, maybe it is a wooden surface. You know, blend the earthy elements alongside these high tech pieces. So we probably will have a wooden texture here, just to make the desk itself kind of look a little more earthbound. So right now, I have some kitchen ideas pulled up, and I basically searched for rustic homes, country homes, and you can't see it on the screen, but basically that's what I'm looking at. Looking for little ideas that we can possibly include in here to actually convey that, while at the same time reworking some of the other elements that we think do already appear, but just need a slight rework. So first thing I probably will do is actually I do want to tackle the metal cabinets that appear on each side. One thing that I'm noticing right now is these are a little too box-like for me, so I do want to soften up with more curvature edges. So that can mean as simple as, you know, all of these 90-degree angles simply become curved radius edges, corners. So don't like these. So actually, let's see. I got some real very sci-fi looking images on my screen right now, just to offer some inspiration. I want a whole bunch of screens, some big dials. So again, it's finding something that's high tech, while mixed with something kind of small town country feel. Another thing that we've been talking about during the entire process of making this game is creating some tension, and I think this is a perfect example of it, of showing this dual nature of the gardener, of being somebody that's, you know, very futuristic, that's very alien-like, that's very sci-fi tool enabled, at the same time being very hands-on and down to earth, as you know, as down to earth as an alien can be. But so that's what I'm trying to look right now, is I'm actually searching for really some real hard science fiction type elements that really speak to that type of style and look, so that it really does bump up against the small town nature of what it'll be blended with. So perfect examples. I'm just trying, even though I'm just kind of rambling on, hopefully you're following along in the thought process, is maybe we do this metal cabinet. work on this metal cabinet, but blend it with things we see in kitchens, cabinetry, here we go. So what I'm trying to show right now is just a little fine detail work you usually find on wood cabinets in homes, while also making that and blending that with the sci-fi nature of like having displays all around and just touch enable like buttons and dials and things that give a whole bunch of feedback of some nature. Like a kitchen hutch, yes, you should look up like a kitchen hutch. Exactly, those are the things I was looking at. Of blending a kitchen hutch with heads-up displays. I think that's what I'm thinking about right now. Is how do we blend these two very different architectural styles and together to create this odd dynamic. There's one great idea that Maddie had that we just can't really work in just because the point of view was she gave me a sketch of this cockpit but zoomed out a bit. Now we couldn't use it because we need for a couple of elements to be readable from this perspective. So whatever's on the screen, the main computer screen here, and then on the green area on the left. So we needed the point of view to actually be kind of close up. But in the pulled up view, there is a view of the captain's chair. And it is so great that it has like, it's the type of old woman chair, I would say, that it has like the buttons in it on the back of it. So you see some pillowing, the florals on it. And I thought that's just like such a great capture of who the gardener is, that she's both this captain of her own ship, she is this strong independent woman, yet at the same time has floral patterns on her captain's chair. And I just thought that little dynamic of those two ideas just meshed together so appropriately in one simple item of this captain's chair. It's just too bad we can't show it on the screen unless it kind of blocked off kind of the bottom portion of the view. Let's see right now. So right now we got our curtains. I like that. I think we need a little bit of end piece on that, the curtain rod. Right now it only hangs to the very top of the desk. I think it just needs to change as into like the billowy nature of it. So I just want it to come in a little more. Get the ties. Probably have some more elaborate strings on there, so they have some tassels on the end, and then it can come out as is. Your rings. I'm not sure about these parts. As you can see over here, it appears on both sides. This was something that again probably was lifted a little too literally from the flat illustration art part, so I do want to change that, so that again I want to get away from these harder straight angles for the cockpit itself, and actually round thing edges a little bit, so that the whole thing just appeals looks a bit softer. So let's see if we can get this right. Actually, what I could do, it's actually what I will, is actually hide this, so it becomes a little easier to see. I might just do some outlining first, so I get the basics of the dimensions. So right now I'm just going through the elements that I maybe don't really have to alter, like this computer screen. It's slightly dull and can use a bit more work to really capture that feeling of being really sci-fi rather than just being a computer screen. But the placement of it, the size of it, I don't really think I'm going to change any of that, so I'm going to like lock that down right now so I can actually just draw around it. Keyboards, that's flexible. Ideas of the plants are there. So it's just these two things I really want to actually just kind of outline, so I have some base of where things should be. I think that's enough for me to continue with. Here we go. Glad to have you join us, Vodka 7-Up. Thought you wouldn't, since you have some time off right now. Cool. So, I gotta bring that in. So yeah, right now, even though I'm happy with the plants, that those might shift. Also, if you didn't notice, there we have another little plant captured in a little cage. Found just adding those two little plants just adds so much into making this feel less like a cold spaceship, more like a homey living room in a little ways. Okay, so I have that. I'm gonna duplicate that, turn that off, and then I just want to hack my way into it. Let's see if I can fill this. Doesn't work. Great. So now I'm going to pick up again, and probably it'll be a little bit easier now that I don't have to look at something in behind my line work. So we have our drapes tasseled. And since I want a certain amount of softness to appear and also a bit of depth, I'm going to rework some of this, which some of the windshield portion of the ship. Try to go out a little bit, so it looks like it's not the front of the ship isn't just directly behind the screen. That actually goes out a little bit. And actually, doing that, I might also remove this horizon type line to the desk. And do that to create a curve, just to make it feel like the ship does go a little bit more in space. Didn't do a good job there. Do it a different way. This is easy. So, just working on building up the frame of the cockpit. What I'm going to look for next I need some wooden framing. I'd like to introduce some wooden framing around this point of view. Something like this would be pretty good. what I'm trying to do right now is look for some kind of trims, like trim ideas to stick around this. I'm looking for things that specifically talk to being in a, you know, I wouldn't say mid-century type of style. But I definitely want this kind of beam that might appear to be a bit more ornamental. Sorry for being a little quiet right now. This is just me searching like interior design websites right now to find some proper molding. You know, I think I'm just gonna draw it rather than trying to look for some real world inspiration. I have a better idea of, you know, what I think it should be versus what I might be able to find online. And same for the trim. I mean, again, initially I was expecting for these parts that create the frame of the front of the ship to... Oh, my iPad just kind of reset itself. Let's hope Procreate is still running. There you go. So initially I was thinking these beams that create the frame of the ship to also be metal. I think it makes sense, but how can I still include wood elements into them? Might not be the most appropriate place. Actually, one thing kind of idea I had was having, actually, I'm not sure if Maddie had that idea. I actually do have her images revealed to me. No, I think it was an idea I proposed to her, was to have sconces. I find sconces to be a quite a classic touch to things, and not exactly something you would see on a spaceship.